Hello there, Frogman, better known as Ryan. Have you ever made a mistake? I haven't. I don't even know the meaning of a mistake. I have, however, made many stenanks in my life, and I made myself a rather public stenank, specifically rushing out a review of a game that I didn't enjoy, that found the eyes of some very diehard fans. Among the obvious hate for not enjoying a game they like, there is a legitimate case to be made that the video itself was not up to standard, and yeah. So let's hit the reset button and go back into the world of Dark and Darker. I want to express what I didn't explain well the first time, and also give a fair shake to the mechanics that I didn't give time to pan out. But first, allow me to salvage the only good part of the previous video. Hello there, Frogman, better known as Ryan, and this week I've made a poem on how I feel about Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker was developed and published by Ironbase, releasing it as an alpha playtest back in February of 2023. It is labeled as an unforgiving hardcore fantasy PvPvE adventure in which you dive into fantastical locales and extract with as much good gear as you can carry. Immediately, this game beckons comparisons to Escape from Tarkov, with its focus on looting high-level equipment, brutally hardcore elements, and extraction-style gameplay. It captured the praise and attention of many in the gaming space, and everybody was having just a jolly old time.
Oh, we'll just see about that!
During the development of the game, the developers at Ironbase faced a cease and desist from a company called Nexon. Now, this didn't come from nowhere. Nexon was allegedly developing a game internally known as P3. Clearly, they're not known for creative names. Nexon claimed assets and ideas for the game were used by the P3 developmental lead to create Dark and Darker, resulting in this lawsuit. Never mind. This absolutely came from fucking nowhere. Essentially, Nexon tried to claim that the idea of P3 was poached by the Dark and Darker team and tried to file a lawsuit to get back at the developers that had quit Nexon to make Dark and Darker. The claim they used Nexon assets was completely false right off the bat, as Ironbase built the game from Unreal assets. Normally, it's not worth mentioning this, but the legal issues took the game off of official platforms on March 26 of 2023, and the game was only recently put back up on June 7th of 2024. As for if the developers were actually in the wrong, I'm not a legal expert, I can't say officially, but the fact that the court case was dismissed for being meritless says quite a lot about the people filing said suit. The important part is Dark and Darker came back to the Steam store on June of 2024 with a free-to-play option. Wow, a light version of a game people enjoy? This won't have any adverse side effects on my personal life. Begin the game and you gotta create an account to proceed. Why not? Another company out there with my personal information? At this point, I've learned it's just better to make it physically harmful for them to scrape through. Orders from Zuck Arago. We're to check through Ryan's history to see his spending habits. First up, let's review his most recent search history. Now, if you're playing free, this comes the most important choice of your entire experience: deciding your class. In no particular order, you've got the Rogue, Ranger, Fighter, Barbarian, Warlock, Bard, Druid, Cleric, and Wizard. If you have any sort of understanding of D&D, you can pretty much guess the strengths and weaknesses of each of the classes before you. Bards being specialists and giving buffs to the party, but being physically weak. Wizards being adept at magic and resistances. And Barbarians being gifted more physically, dealing heavy melee damage while being insulted of even suggesting the idea of wearing a shirt. Now, this is monumentous, as playing free will only grant you one single character slot, essentially forcing you to stick with what you pick right now. You are by no means permanently stuck to this class, as you can build another one, but you will have to discard the character along with all the accumulated items in your stash, essentially restarting on everything you've worked for. Not exactly a good option. So let's get into the game. Your goal is to explore various locations to kill enemies and loot the scattered bodies and treasure chests for rare and powerful equipment. Items become better and more valuable based on the color of text they are written with. Going from worst to best, you have black, gray, white, green, blue, purple, orange, and then yellow. As you're going through and looting, you will more than likely come across items that your class will not be able to use, but it is still worth to at least glance at them on the off chance that they are very valuable and could be sold for a pretty penny. But honestly, it's hardly worth mentioning right now, because if you're just starting out, your experience will be plagued by It is no secret that this game is hard, unforgiving even. There are a multitude of things that will kill you. The basic enemies hit like trucks, traps are hidden in the shadows, and the slowly creeping timer that marks the end of your run should you not extract in time. Add on to all that the large sprawling dungeons that's easy as hell to get lost in, and you've got yourself a good recipe to frustrate any player who doesn't come in pre-armed with valuable wiki knowledge. This game is dense with things going on, and in an attempt to make the game less complicated for me, I chose to be the barbarian. You know, a hit things and be done with it type of character. Well, let's just take a gander at the impact power page, and oh my god, there's math!
I'm a barbarian. I came to hit things, not do math.
But whatever, my class is simple, so it can't be too hard to just navigate the basic dungeon while avoiding players, right? 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 You see, even though the barbarian has, quote, extreme health, you can't even be careless about the basic enemies. If you don't take care to avoid hits and deal with enemies properly, you'll find yourself losing fast and losing often, as the way to heal is very limited depending on your class. For me, all I've got is a few bandages, which only heal a small amount up to the half-transparent bar of health, a campfire that heals for a nice amount, but takes a long time and forces you to sit still for extended periods of time, and the stock health potions, which don't do as much as you're really hoping they would. The only way to heal better is to either be a class that has healing spells or abilities, find more potent potions in the dungeons, or buy more potions from the appropriate merchant. One of my stenanks I expressed was a distaste in all of these menus hiding the integral squire that gives you a base gear. Since then, I've noticed a pop-up tells you to go there, along with a specific button in the lobby menu to send you right there, so that process is streamlined. The merchants themselves all sell certain items, from weapons and armor from the weaponsmith, tools and traps from the woodsman, and potions and bandages from the alchemists and surgeon respectively. Most of the merchants require you to exchange your gold coins in order to buy the item you want. That's right, we're explaining basic business transactions. Do you like it when I'm being thorough? More importantly, certain merchants can buy specific items from you in exchange for gold. The weaponsmith will buy combat equipment, treasurer will convert silver coins to gold, and the collector will buy pretty much everything else. However, as this is probably obvious, the only way to have items to sell, you need to extract items to begin with, and damn it! Damn it! Son of a bitch! We're back into the reality that it's hard as balls to extract consistently. As I mentioned before, there's no shortage of things looking to kill you, and you'll likely be suffering multiple crushing deaths before you understand how a certain enemy or map works, which I suppose is part of the fun. Now hold on just a second, I hear from the void. You don't have to live in ignorance at all. By using the large glowing button in the corner, you can call forth a knight to help you learn the game. No. While I understand it would likely be beneficial for me to gain the wisdom and guidance of somebody with extensive game knowledge, understand my perspective here.
I don't want to talk to people.
I don't want to diss the idea in its entirety. I think it's super respectable that passionate people are willing to take time out of their day in order to help others learn the game. It's just not for me. Something about forcing another person to suffer through my learning curve of an incredibly deep game just makes me irrationally uncomfortable. Plus, I'd never shake the feeling of them trying to upsell me on purchasable stuff in the game. Not even the overt stuff, just small things like, oh, I don't have to worry about that since I bought the full version at launch. I have many other characters to switch from. I have a skin and special flag for my character. Hey, check out this cool emote. Yes, all of this is hypothetical and cynical on my part, but it's all part of the plan, right? Get a real-world human connection into the game that acts as a guiding figure, and now we've built up a social reason to keep having a not good time. I got a comment saying that I wouldn't have had a problem if I just used the Call of Night feature, and you know, maybe, but I just don't think I like this game. See, where most people are coming from, they're sticking to the game like, whereas I'm coming to it, I'm stuck to the game like... The world is very well presented, with each environment feeling threatening and wonderfully fantastic. It would be great to explore the depths of every location and see all the different features of each map, provided if I ever learn how to not take serious damage from enemies. Oh, look, a mini-boss! Another snag of mine was when I complained about the combat being clunky and disorienting, which was admittedly short-sighted, so let me rephrase by saying, don't use Barbarian to learn the combat of the game! The Barbarian almost always uses two-handed weapons for combat, and what that means is slow, predictable swings for every attack you make. Granted, you are doing heavy damage if you hit, but trap yourself in a narrow hallway or low ceiling and you'll start to realize you take first-person swings for granted in every other game. The hitbox for your swing lasts for the whole swing arc. This can be exploited to hit multiple enemies on the same swing, or if you're like me, clang your weapon off a wall that you didn't see. Accuracy of where your swing goes is super integral, as you want to hit your enemy in the head with the edge or the blade of the weapon. Getting too close and doing anything else will reduce the damage, so it becomes important how far you want to be when engaging an enemy, like this guy who knows how to space me out perfectly! I'm dead. Player versus player combat is probably fine. Me being locked to my one barbarian, I didn't get much more of an experience other than swinging my slow-ass axe, getting parried and killed by better players. And yes, this is an issue with just me because I don't have any other options. When I swing, I'm locked into moving slower and winding up with a wide attack that any player is able to simply sidestep or back away from. Could I be using my abilities? Yes, but it doesn't matter when I have to completely abandon a fight when the opposing player has any sort of ranged attack. All that's left for me to do is hopelessly rush the guy, jump around corners, and swing, hoping to deal the massive damage this class promised me. Oh my god, I did it! I got a player killed, and I did it all by myself! Aren't you proud of me, fighter, hiding in the corner? Look, this game is probably great for PvP, but I would never know. With the free version of the game, I'm stuck to one character, lest I want to completely restart, throwing myself into a pit of despair, trying desperately to find the part of this game that will make me enjoy it. Like, I have a job. I have a real-life job that I have to feel oppressed at. And then I go home and do this! Voluntarily! What the fuck is wrong with me? But you know what? Forget it, because with a job comes money, and with money comes the responsibility to be irresponsible. So let's get ourselves the full version and see what I'm missing. The premium version of the game costs $30 in redstones to buy.
Oh, sorry, I read that wrong.
The uncompromised version of the game costs $30 in redstones to buy. Before, there wasn't a free-to-play version. You had to pay for the game upfront to play it. Now we've got a free-to-play version and try out. If you want the full game, you've got to use in-game currency to upgrade. Why did they do this?
Get fucked, bitch.
This may be over cynical on my side, but I do not see any reason to have us purchase premium currency just to have the intended experience of the game. The game was doing fine before. Why have this severely stripped down version just to hound us with a better version at the normal retail price? Whatever you or I may think, the real version of Dark and Darker costs $30 of redstone shards. With this, we can make 9 characters, one for each of the currently available classes, and for God's sake, you better be unique. That was one of my other notable stinanks on my first go at this. I didn't fully explain my discontent with the unique naming situation. You need to make an account up front, requiring your account name to be unique. Okay, fine, that's pretty standard. Having a unique account name allows players to find others and keeps us organized for the developers. But then we get to the character creator, and that also needs to be unique? Why do the characters need to have unique names when our accounts need to be one of a kind? If it's for reporting reasons, have us be able to see the account name after we've been killed. That way we can have the role-playing characters' names we want. Instead, I've got to mash 2 gritty-sounding names to make my barbarian even sort of fit. And now you're saying I have to name all 9 of these clods? Well, there's no time like the present to introduce my armada of fantasy characters. In no particular order, we have Rockgore the Barbarian, Tommy Fistknife the Fighter, the Rogue Lock-Picking Stabber, Varndasukin the Ranger, the Wizard known as Super Pope, Wendell, who is wiser than the other Wendell, he's Wendell the Wiser, Billy Steelnut the Bard, and Phyllis.
Dude, you forgot to name the Warlock. Come on, I've spent 2 hours on these already.
Tifgurti Defer. A warlock that gets his powers from spelling mistakes on the internet. Since this was written and recorded and I take forever to make these, they've added a new class to play as, the Sorcerer. I'd have ignored it since there's nothing I have to say about it, but f it, meet Dorg the Mage as well. Now that the game has opened up and I'm able to wear a shirt, it feels so much better. I'm able to put into practice everything I wanted to as a barbarian, sidestepping and dodging incoming attacks, blocking light hits with a shield, and even buff myself in a way that I know makes an impact in fights. I can take my time, beat enemies at my own pace, and even heal on the move to full health, keeping myself going strong and quickly to the next part. That's another stank I made, not even trying the magic system before writing it off. Using magic is not as daunting as I thought it would be. You get a set amount of times you can cast a spell, recharging only when you rest, and recharging faster if you are within a campfire. And I found it really refreshing to be able to avoid damage, not because my character was slow and f***ing huge, but because I knew I was making a mistake and suffering a manageable penalty for it. With this, I might even be able to get higher gear and take on other play. Well, Barbarian clearly works for them. A mechanic I seldom encountered was the gear score rating. As you enter into a lobby, you are placed among people with a certain bracket of gear score, grouped from 0 to 24, 25 to 124, and anything above 125 is completely open, presumably full of players with the highest and most powerful gear you can imagine. And at my skill level, you can probably imagine how that would go.
Is this a pristine goblet? Are there even purple?
Yeah, I only ever stuck to the lower lobbies. Once you have the full game, you can access the online marketplace, where other players are selling their equipment of any rarity and, from what I understand, any price. If the game itself is not my thing, then this is even more so not my thing. I have no interest in dealing with a marketplace where everybody wants to sell their stuff at a higher price than what it's worth, but I understand that it's the place to go when you want to suit up with higher level gear without needing to go diving into the dungeons and hoping to get lucky. If you have the wealth and patience to sell with it, I hear it's a wonder to use, but I never did it. I don't care about it.
What are you gonna do? Sue me? Yes?
Finally, and perhaps most importantly, there is a second way to escape the dungeon. Rather than sitting by a blue exit and leaving to the lobby, you can descend further through the red stairs, finding horrors beyond your comprehension.
Adobe is using the power of generative AI to deliver the most advanced.
These are all permanent escape routes that send the player deeper into the dungeon, where there are higher level enemies and higher grade loot to find. It takes a great amount of skill and game knowledge to even think about descending further. And I know what you're thinking. Ryan, did you push yourself all the way to get good enough to go down there?
No!
Turns out you can see exactly what these places have to offer just by watching somebody else through Spectate. Oh my god, look at him go! He's got so many skulls coming after him! How is he gonna beat them all? He just closed the door and let them all kill each other.
Okay, not exactly a thrilling adventure moment, but check out all the good loot he's getting. And there's a deeper dungeon as well. Where are we gonna go to? Hell? Holy shit, this is so cool! Hellhounds, nightmare skeletons, and demon minotaurs? Dude, there's gotta be some sick moves this guy puts on to beat these guys. What?
This is certainly a byproduct of only watching, but I'm underwhelmed that this seems to be the method for beating these enemies. Sure, you can use weapons to beat the enemy's reach, and that will do you just fine, but the prevailing strategy for any stage is to place yourself in the magic spot where you can hit the enemies and they can't hit you. Call me a square, but I think that's kind of lame. I want to feel like I'm outmaneuvering and besting the enemy in strength, not standing on a chest-high wall as they do nothing. I'd be much more willing to beat these brutal enemies if it wasn't under constant threat of players coming out and wrecking my ass, and I'd be equally fine with the pure PvP in this D&D setting, but the combination of the two keeps me from enjoying either one to their fullest. Every element in the PvE is clearly something that can be conquered with enough time, but feeling like the player is just around the corner puts me in a nervous tizzy, causing me to try and end fights too soon and getting needlessly injured. I wish I could say I wanted to push through to see what this game has. There's crafting items, reward tokens, and so many different types of skills for every class to mix and match the build of your character. And I could see so many different ways for people to subtly and drastically change their playstyle. But I have to say it once again, that's for the people who stuck to this game like... Meanwhile, I'm still...
Overall, I still don't like this game. It's not a bad game. I never said it was a bad game. The presentation is phenomenal, and its brutal hardcore identity is felt in spades. I really feel like it should be $30 up front instead of the redstone shards in-game, but a free-to-play option gives one the opportunity to test it out and see if they would like it. Provided you are getting a compromised version of the game, it's also not for everyone, especially since the only goal is to amass more wealth, gear, and, I don't know, super special awesome points or whatever. You can have a good time with it. The dungeon crawling and facing off against brutal enemies is definitely something I would enjoy, if not for the constant threat of players that ruined the vibe for me. That being said, if the players weren't there, the enemies would be far too simple to beat, going down with basic kiting and baiting attacks. So the players are needed to bring more threat. But I don't find the PvP inherently alluring. This game has a lot to offer, but none of it works for me. I could try playing this for hundreds more hours to see if it finally clicks for me, but I know in my heart, at the end of the day, all I'm ever going to feel about this game is